Hello everyone, it's Jody Eckleberry-Hunt. It's been a minute. Just as a reminder, I'm a health psychologist and I'm author of Move On Motherfucker, Getting to Good Riddance, and Badass Stories. Well, I'm here today to tell you about my newest book, which is called Take That Shit Over There, and it's all about boundaries. No other issue comes to my office more often than boundary setting. How do I set boundaries? How do I tell other people I've set boundaries, and how do I not feel crushed by the guilt about setting boundaries? So I've tried to take a lot of different areas, maybe some that you hadn't even thought of, and organize them in themes that are bite-sized lessons on how to set boundaries, so that maybe it can be used as a reference guide if you're not a big reader and you just want to go and read or get a reminder, some sort of validation for yourself. It's easy to find. Some of the themes that I have are how to set boundaries with yourself. And you may not have thought about that. Maybe you're thinking boundaries are about other people, but really it's about you and your preferences. So boundaries that maybe you set with yourself, boundaries with pain around those we love or those we like a lot, boundaries with pain around social life and work, and finally, boundaries with other pains in the ass or those of the mind. And I thought I would just read maybe a few snippets for you to give you a taste of what some of the boundary setting in the book is like. So the first one is called There Are No Awards for Martyrs. And this is from Boundaries Around Self-Inflicted Pain. It is rare that I hear people share stories in which they are approached by work colleagues, bosses, and general others who tell them to stop and take care of themselves. Sure, your mother probably says this to you, but most likely others are too busy benefiting from your effort. Your kids aren't saying, "Dad, take a rest. Let us cook dinner tonight." Or, "Mom, you go sit down, I'll handle the laundry." Hell no, that is not happening. If we wait for others to tell us to take care of ourselves, it will be a perpetual minute. Giving up your own happiness to serve others doesn't come with an award. Self-care is a little like hygiene. You've got to make time for it and stop seeing it as optional or dispensable. It is to the benefit of everyone in your orbit for you to have good hygiene and be in good working condition. So that's maybe an example of you setting a boundary in terms of taking care of yourself. How about a little bit of boundary around boundaries with other people? And this is for the parents out there. Parents give, kids take, rinse, pause, repeat. You can't blame kids for taking all we are willing to give. That's their job. It would be seriously foolish to turn down the perks of having your heart's desire fulfilled by others. Take some perspective here. The cycle of parents endlessly giving without thought can create a codependent, leeching cycle that leaves parents feeling resentful and kids feeling incapable of doing for themselves. The parent's job is to teach the kid about limits and boundaries, which necessarily means saying no. Remember when I talked about healthy development? When I said our job as parents is to teach kids to be independent? Well, that involves learning the meaning of the word no. No is healthy. It is life-affirming. It's life-sustaining. We cannot, however, look to our children to validate such limit setting. They don't want to hear no. It isn't in their short-sighted interest. It isn't enjoyable. It's not exciting. And as parents, we have to know the value of saying no without getting our kids' approval. And by the way, as I'm reading these, I'm reading a slice of the lesson. There is more to it than that. I'm not saying, okay, just that's enough to be done. I do give more than that. But I'm trying to give you a sampling. This lesson, this next lesson or slice of a lesson is from social and work situations, and it's called Incivility, the Pig in Slop. These days, incivility seems to be the standard operating procedure, which is unfortunate because it is bottom of the barrel behavior. Incivility refers to rude and disrespectful behavior, which should be embarrassing, but sadly it's becoming normalized in our dehumanizing social discourse. Incivility refers to when we begin to treat others as if they are non-human, machine-like, or somehow cut off from feeling. Social media has set off incivility like an accelerant. Our comfort with electronic communication allows us to view one another as simply computers. We are too easily detached from the idea that there is a living, breathing human on the other end. Our feedback is no longer entirely constructive, but sometimes intent on being so direct that we cut the other person on the receiving end to the core. We fire off cruel remarks, which, if hurled at us, would crush our souls. We are so disconnected from humanity that we are becoming the very thing we rail against. So maybe in that situation it's more of an enlightenment or an awareness that you might have about what is going on around you, or when people hurl comments at you and you're kind of taken aback, it's recognizing that there is a higher level of incivility in the world, and I think it helps you set your boundaries better. So the last lesson that I wanted to share with you today is called assholery, and this is with the other pains in the ass. Once I was at a party and Kesha told a work story that many of us can relate to in some form. At Kesha's place of work, they had a community lunch the previous day, and there was a leftover salad in one of those tin containers that was in the break room refrigerator. Kesha stopped by the break room to get a drink, and she found Roger eating out of the container with his fingers. Kesha paused in shock and retreated, not sure what to say. And that's because one should never have to say to a coworker to not eat community food out of the container with their fingers. If you have done this, or have eaten food that wasn't yours, or borrowed food that wasn't yours, you have engaged in assholery. Assholery is defined by me as engaging in self-centered, rude behavior that you know or should know better to engage in, but you don't. So you do it anyway because you believe you can get away with it. Some other examples of assholery are bullying or making fun of other people, taking credit for shit you didn't do, telling offensive or derogatory jokes at work, assuming that other people around you share your sense of humor, talking down to people, behaving with entitlement, being abusive in words or behaviors, and using other people. If you find that these behaviors apply to you, it's time to rein in the assholery, because it's super annoying to folks who are forced to interact with you. Even though this book is about boundaries, people cannot always choose whose company to share. People need to keep food at work without concern that you're sticking your fingers in it because you know that you can. If you find that you're around other people who engage in assholery, call that shit out. Kesha went back to her office and sent an office-wide memo outlining the appropriate break room behavior, specifically telling people to not eat food from the refrigerator with their fingers. This is an appropriate boundary for an asshole. The reason some folks struggle with how to respond to assholery is they feel that it is somehow rude to call out rude behavior. And I'm here to tell you that it isn't disrespectful, because you wouldn't have had to do that if the other person had not acted like an asshole. While it may feel wrong to publicly call out inappropriate behavior, clearly the other person doesn't fully understand in a way that polite society does. So it's best to speak plainly. Tell folks to cut that shit out. No further explanation is necessary, and in some cases you may smell the assholery before it fully presents itself. And in that case, it's completely fine to notify them that assholery will not be tolerated. Don't try that nonsense here. Again, those were snippets with real skills built in and